It's time to talk about June's Journey, a hidden object mystery game with a captivating detective story. When you're playing, you solve a mind-teasing mystery of the roaring 1920s while you dive into June's captivating quest to uncover a scandalous family secret and solve her sister's murder. It's mystery, it's danger, and it's romance, and you never know where the next chapter's gonna take you. If that wasn't fun enough, you get to customize your very own luxurious island estate. Seriously, I cannot stop playing. I am already on the third chapter and I just started recently. Join me back in time in the glamorous 1920s. June needs your help, detective. Download June's Journey for free today on iOS and Android. For just $2.99 a month, you can help the Murder Diaries podcast more than you already do by being a valued listener. In return, you get to listen ad-free. So head over to patreon.com/themurderdiariespod or search The Murder Diaries ad-free on Spotify. You can also subscribe on Apple Podcast. Again, $2.99 and you get to listen ad-free. Welcome back to The Murder Diaries. I'm Paige.
And I'm Natalie.
33-year-old Sabrina Rosette was a funny, hardworking mother of two living on the 2C First Nation Reserve in British Columbia when she was found dead in a community member's driveway. She was pronounced dead on the scene, suffering from at least one knife wound. A man was immediately arrested and charged with murder, but released a few days later. Since then, Sabrina's case has gone cold, leaving her loved ones behind with so many questions. This is her story.
Used to think it's in my head, but I'm walking with the dead.
Sabrina Rosette was the tough kind of girl with a kind heart. Everyone who knew her thought so. She grew up with her family on the 2C First Nation Reserve in British Columbia. The community was small but tight-knit. The 2C Reserve is one of 6 communities in the Chilcotin Nation. At the time of this story, there were about 360 members, but only half of those lived on the 2C Reserve. Sabrina's older sister Liz told NBC News that everyone grew up knowing everybody, and everybody knows and loves my sister. From a young age, Sabrina was already showing a love and dedication to her community and the lives of others. At just 16, she started helping reserve queues with firefighting and flood patrol. Sabrina was always the first to volunteer, passionate and excited about being part of a group that was integral to the reserve. She ended up working as a wildlife firefighter for over 10 years, eventually becoming a crew boss. Liz told Dateline that Sabrina was so determined in everything that she did. She was a hard worker, always wanted to do her best, and just loved helping others. Sabrina's father, Alfred Jack, didn't worry too much about his daughter. He knew that she was very capable of taking care of herself and that she even carried a knife with her. The main reason he didn't worry too much about Sabrina, though, is that she had no conflict with anyone. He told Dateline of his daughter that's just who she was. Everyone loved her and she just got along with everybody. He went on to say that Sabrina knew how to use her knife, but didn't often let people know that she carried it. It was something that she only used during a true emergency. People around Sabrina always looked to her to cheer them up. She was funny and could break the tension in any situation. Liz told APTN News if she noticed a room was quiet, she'd come in and yell, "Why is everyone so serious?" Then she would make everyone laugh. Sabrina was often described as easygoing and someone who greatly cared for others. She was the kind of person who always made sure that loved ones had their jackets before leaving home, or that everyone had plenty to eat. Sabrina also ensured that everyone had their own nickname. Liz explained to Dateline that her sister was known as the nickname giver in the family, and that she had such a careless laugh. In her free time, Sabrina enjoyed being outside, hunting, and fishing. Liz said that despite Sabrina being a bit of a tomboy sometimes, she also had a feminine side. She told Dateline of her sister that she could be a girly girl when she wanted to be. She would get all dressed up and she would look so amazing. Sabrina was also often described by many as a natural caretaker. This opinion was solidified when Sabrina gave birth to her 2 sons. At the time of Sabrina's death, her boys, Devlin and Drayson, were 4 and 14 years old. There was nothing that she loved more than her boys, and everyone in the community knew that. Growing up with 5 sisters and 3 brothers, Sabrina was no stranger to taking care of others. And when Sabrina was pregnant with her first son, she didn't let anything slow her down or keep her from being there for her family. Her brother Lawrence was graduating from high school, and Sabrina was the only one who showed up to his graduation on time. She made a point to be in his graduation pictures, pregnant belly and all. Just a few days later, Sabrina gave birth to her son. She always made sure that if someone in the family had a new baby, she was there. Sabrina's younger sister, Tiara, explained to APTN News how memories of her big sister are now ingrained in her. My memories of her are mostly of being a caretaker. She would get all of us kids to yell like we were being chased when we all held hands to cross the street to make it more fun so we would actually want to hold hands. Tiara added that not only was Sabrina able to make everyday things fun for the kids, she was also a mentor. Tiara recalled a specific lesson that she learned from Sabrina. Quote, I was complaining about some classmate and said that I hated them. She got all serious and told me hate is a very heavy word. Don't use it without thought. And since then, I rarely use the word hate. Sabrina often tried to share little nuggets of wisdom with her siblings in an effort to encourage them. She would leave her brothers and sisters notes with short sayings on them just to brighten their day. One of Sabrina's brothers told ATPN News that he remembered one note in particular that she left him. It read, tough times don't last, but tough people do. Bubby Boy and I will always love you. Sabrina's cousin May Cooper remembers Sabrina had a joyful spirit. May told the Williams Lake Tribune, no matter what the occasion, she was there for you, no matter what. Even when she was down, she always made you feel better. It's so hard to describe. She was a loving person.
There was no shortage of people who cared about Sabrina. She was an integral part of the community and a one-of-a-kind person. Her father told the Williams Lake Tribune that she struggled with drug abuse, and other family members struggled with alcohol. And while he didn't elaborate on the substance abuse issues that Sabrina faced, we want to make it clear to our listeners that it didn't impact the way that her family viewed her, or the way that Sabrina cared for those she loved. Sabrina was so much more than her struggles.
Saturday, June 18th, 2019 was a special day for Sabrina's family. It was Liz's birthday, and her dad had gone out on a fishing trip in hopes of catching some salmon for the celebration. At 6 p.m., the Williams Lake Royal Canadian Mounted Police, RCMP, received a call for a female that had been severely injured in a driveway on the Tusi Reserve. Upon arrival, emergency responders found the female already deceased. They were unable to revive her and pronounced her dead on the scene. There's no information available as to who found the female or called 911. Shortly after, the female was identified as 33-year-old Sabrina Rosette. Liz, who had been in nearby Williams Lake that afternoon, said that she received a call from her father to come home immediately. Sabrina and Liz's father, Alfred, later told Dateline, all day I had the feeling that I should have been home. Something didn't feel right all day. The family's home was on a hill that overlooked the reserve, which made it easy to see the emergency lights at the residence below. It was a scene that Alfred couldn't forget. He pointed out the area to NBC News, saying, that's where my daughter's life ended. I went down there and they wouldn't let me see her, but I pushed my way through. They said it was my daughter, but I had to find out for myself. Alfred also said that Sabrina's body was actually left on the scene for a few days behind a tarp as police investigated. There was no explanation to the family as to why. Alfred said the police leaving Sabrina's body there just added to the horrific pain the family was already in. He told a local news outlet that was really, really bad because we could see all the things going on from our house. Knowing that she was there and there was nothing we could do, even go there, look at her, anything. We did a ceremony when she was leaving from there, when the coroner was going to take her. Everyone in the small community was stunned. Sabrina was well loved and respected. Liz had even seen her sister earlier that morning, and nothing seemed out of the ordinary. She told NBC News that Sabrina, quote, drove by my place, smiling and waving, but she didn't stop. That was the last time I saw her.
Investigating authorities immediately released a statement that they believed Sabrina's death to be an isolated incident and that there was no threat to the community. This, however, didn't ease the minds of those on the reserve, mostly because there was questions surrounding the fact that investigators didn't release any information. So people were wondering what led authorities to believe that no one else was in danger. You know that's the sound of another sale on your online Shopify store. But did you know Shopify powers selling in person too? That's right. Shopify is the sound of selling everywhere. Online, in-store, on social media, and beyond.
Shopify POS is your command center for your retail store. From accepting payments to managing inventory, Shopify has everything you need to sell in person. With Shopify, you get a powerhouse selling partner that effortlessly unites your in-person and online sales into one source of truth. Track every sale across your business in one place and know exactly what's in stock. On top of all that, you can connect with customers in-line and online because Shopify helps you drive store traffic with plug-and-play tools that are built for marketing campaigns from TikTok to Instagram and beyond.
Get hardware that fits your business. Take payments by smartphone, transform your tablet into a point-of-sale system, or use Shopify's POS Go mobile device for a battle-tested solution. Plus, Shopify's award-winning help is there to support your success every step of the way. Do retail right with Shopify.
Sign up for $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/murderdiaries, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/murderdiaries to take your retail business to the next level today. Shopify.com/murderdiaries. Liz recalled that Sabrina wasn't in the car alone. She was with a male friend, someone that the family had grown up with. This male hasn't been publicly named. Strangely, the RCMP arrested this same male at the scene where they had found Sabrina's body. Authorities released a statement regarding the arrest, simply saying, "The nature of or the mechanism of the victim's injuries will not be disclosed at this time. A local man was arrested for the murder at the scene and remains in custody as the investigation progresses. No changes have been made." End quote. Just a few days after Sabrina's death, the unidentified male was released from custody. No further information regarding the details of his arrest or release from custody has been made public. The two agencies in charge of the investigation, Williams Lake General Investigation Section, GIS, and the North District Major Crime Unit, reportedly identified two possible crime scenes. One was at the location where Sabrina's body had been found, and the other was Lover's Leap. Lover's Leap was described by NBC News as a popular place for people to hang out and have bonfires and party. Their statement also included the following: "We understand this reserve is a close-knit community, and there is bound to be information being shared amongst members of the community of Williams Lake at large." Though Sabrina's family once thought of their community as an extension of their family, Sabrina's murder began to tear the community apart. Alfred, who began caring for Sabrina's two sons, eventually had to pull the oldest boy out of school because he was being verbally harassed and bullied by other students. Alfred told the Williams Lake Tribune that the family became less active in the community, saying, "We've pretty much just isolated ourselves from other people, which is sad because we're well known in our community because of all the stuff that we do. We're always busy." There was very little information released about the details surrounding Sabrina's death. Even her family didn't know much. Liz told NBC News, "We don't know anything other than that it was a knife wound in her rib. We don't know what side, we don't know where the weapon is, or if it was ever found." The Tusi Reserve had rumors swirling about what happened to Sabrina, with many claiming that her death was an accident, that she'd fallen on the knife that she always carried. But her family, they don't think that makes any sense. Liz explained, quote, "Being First Nations, she was raised and taught how to use a knife and knew how to handle one. Even if she did fall on the knife, where is it? It would have been in her. Who took it out of her then?" Liz also said that she thinks the rumors being spread were in an attempt to pull attention from the person who actually killed Sabrina. Liz shared in Alfred's belief and feeling that the community was rapidly dividing because of her sister's murder. She told NBC News, "It feels like our family against the whole reserve, like we're being pushed into a corner and hushed."
Not only was Sabrina's family having to deal with the crushing weight of her death, they were now having to face a community that they didn't feel they could trust anymore.
Days, weeks, and months passed, and before Sabrina's family knew it, it had been a full year since Sabrina's murder. There hadn't been any developments, and it seemed as though the case had gone cold. On the one-year anniversary, the North District Major Crimes Unit released a statement to the public hoping for more information. "This investigation has remained active since the onset. Our priority is to find the truth of what happened to Sabrina, And one area we continue to focus on is information from witnesses. I recognize that this is a difficult request in such a close and possibly divided community, but I ask that everyone join me in empathizing with Sabrina's family and to call with any information that may help her children, family, and community to heal. Regardless of the time that had passed, the family still didn't have any information. Liz explained, "We haven't heard anything about the autopsy, any kind of evidence they have. We always get told it's still an ongoing investigation." Sabrina's family explained to APTN News that during the few days leading up to her death, she had been hanging out with a group of friends from their community, and that Lover's Leap was somewhere that they might have gone at some point. Lover's Leap, by the way, is just about a 10-minute walk from the driveway where Sabrina's body had been found. Alfred feels confident that someone, or possibly several people, in the community know who's responsible for his daughter's death, saying everyone knew what happened, but nobody knew exactly what happened. We just had assumptions because a man was picked up by the cops. We figured we'd find out within a couple of days what exactly happened, but even till today, we don't know. Nobody says nothing. Nothing is said to us all over the reserve. Alfred also says he believed that the only thing that the RCMP was concerned about was some sort of retaliation for Sabrina's murder. Though Sabrina's family felt it was impossible for them to move forward without any answers or any resolve, they had to do everything they could to help her sons, Drayson and Devlin, understand and process their mother's murder. Drayson, the younger of the two boys, who was just 4 when Sabrina was murdered, eventually began to understand that his mother was never coming home. Sabrina's father said that they no longer had to explain to him that his mother was gone. He also said that Sabrina's spirit remained in the house and remained with her sons, telling APTN News she comes to him and plays with him and talks to him in spirit, and this has just been happening in the last couple weeks. He was scared, but now he understands. He's fine with it because he says he still gets to play with her and that it's really hard. Sabrina's loved ones held a special dinner to mark the 1-year anniversary of her murder. They painted wooden planters to fill with flowers, something they believed Sabrina would have loved. While the love and memories of Sabrina were still incredibly present, so was the frustration and the lack of progress. Sabrina's cousin May said that it's been a year and nothing has been done.
Sabrina's memory and spirit clearly weren't easily forgotten by her loved ones. It was difficult, though, because her family didn't want her to fall through the cracks as yet another missing or murdered Indigenous woman.
The amount of missing and murdered Indigenous women in both the US and Canada has continued to climb. The National Statistical Office in Canada reported between 2009 and 2021, the homicide rate against First Nations and Inuit females was 6 times higher than the rate of homicides against non-Indigenous women. 81% of these women were murdered by someone that they knew. The Assembly of First Nations provides even more startling statistics. Indigenous women make up 16% of all female homicide victims and 11% of missing women, yet Indigenous people make up only 4.3% of the population in Canada. Alarmingly, in 2018, Seattle's Urban Indian Health Institute reported that murder was the 3rd leading cause of death for Indigenous women. Though Sabrina's family fear that her memory will be left behind and she'll become another statistic, she did unfortunately immediately join a group that her family never wanted her to be a part of: murdered Indigenous women whose cases have little information and unfortunately appear to have gone cold, seemingly from the beginning. 35-year-old Freda Goodrunning lived on the Sunchild First Nation in Alberta. She was much like Sabrina, a woman who brought the sunshine into every room she was in. She loved her children, but struggled with substance abuse. In June of 2014, Freda's body was found discarded in a storage shed behind a bar that was closed down. Authorities waited 2 days to notify her family. It took them 4 months to rule that Freda's case was a homicide due to blunt force trauma. After that, her case seemed to fade away. No further details were released, and no one was ever charged with her murder. 29-year-old Angela Porman lived on the Kawakatus First Nation Reserve in Saskatchewan. In 2014, Angela was pulling her life back together, recovering from addiction to alcohol. She was hopeful and looking forward to the future. Unfortunately, Angela was found on the side of the road with multiple stab wounds. She was pronounced deceased at the hospital. Similarly to how Sabrina's father and sisters struggled with the lack of communication and answers provided to them by investigators, Angela's mother felt helpless. She contacted police multiple times but didn't receive any further information on her daughter's murder. Her mom also applied for monetary help for Angela's funeral through Manitoba's Compensation for Victims of Crime program, but was denied because of Angela's past criminal record. The legal advocacy director at Aboriginal Legal Services of Toronto, Krista Bigcanoe, spoke candidly regarding the compensation laws consistently excluding a large number of Indigenous victims, saying, "How is it her victimization, in this case homicide, is outweighed by the minor offenses that exist on her criminal record?" Angela's case is still unsolved and no charges have been filed. Corporal Madonna Saunderson of RCMP told APTN News that regarding Sabrina's murder, they'd continued to treat it as a homicide, even going as far to say, "We've maintained regular contact with the family regarding the status of the investigation and significant developments." In 2021, Sergeant Kevin McIntyre of the North District Major Crimes Unit told Dateline, "This remains a priority investigation and we remain fully committed to ensure Sabrina's family and community will get the answers they need to ensure that the individuals responsible are held accountable. We remain committed to providing an update at the appropriate time." Though the statements released from the investigating authorities indicated that the case is still very active, there's still no new information being relayed to Sabrina's family. The phrases listed under the name of the countless unresolved cases of murdered Indigenous women echo with repetition. Quote, "Her death was suspicious, but there wasn't enough evidence to say it was a homicide. Though the case is open, it is still at a standstill. Her death was initially ruled suspicious by police, but it was later determined that no foul play was involved. Police say they are no longer actively pursuing, and it's been years since the family spoke with officers. And most commonly, the case remains unsolved."
Sabrina's case, like so many other missing or murdered Indigenous women's cases, has very little information on the investigation itself. Most of the information surrounding her comes from her family, who said that they'd prefer to focus on her life and the impact she had on the people around her. The Indigenous community echoes this sentiment, also noting that the lifestyles these victims lived should not have any effect on how their cases are handled by investigators.
Investigators haven't released any information that would point towards concrete theories in Sabrina's murder. However, the immediate arrest of the unidentified man opens up the gate for many questions. As we discussed earlier, Liz said that the man was the same man that she'd seen Sabrina driving around with earlier. While we don't know what caused police to initially arrest this man or why they ultimately released him, it feels safe to say that he must have some information regarding Sabrina's last movements on the day that she was murdered. Though no details have been made public, Sabrina's father admitted that his daughter had struggled with substance abuse. It's unknown if Sabrina was struggling at the time of her murder, but it's possible that something involved with drugs or alcohol may have played a part in her murder. Two of the most common risk factors for Indigenous women becoming victims of homicide are domestic violence and substance abuse. There's also no information indicating that Sabrina led anything close to a high-risk lifestyle at any point, but it remains a common thread in cases of Indigenous women that investigators seem to disregard victims with a criminal past. 20-year-old Amber Tuccaro lived on the Mikisew Cree First Nation. She disappeared on August 10th, and her remains were found 2 years later. Her mother claimed that from the beginning, investigators discounted Amber's disappearance. When she first called police, she said they told her maybe she's out partying and will call or whatever. Unfortunately, as the disappearance progressed into the location of Amber's remains, Amber's mother said that there still hasn't been any closure in her case, and it was incredibly difficult with how investigators handled it. She told CBC News, "Have more respect and more compassion. Don't just treat her like she's nothing. I'm not just speaking for Amber, but for all the missing and murdered." 22-year-old Ashley fell to her death from a fifth-floor hotel room. She had a history of drug abuse and was using illicit drugs at the time of her death. Despite witnesses giving accounts that indicated Ashley was a victim of foul play, the Vancouver Police Department ruled that her death was not suspicious. Her cousin told CBC News that despite the things that Ashley struggled with, her case deserves the same due respect and dignity as anyone else's. Like all of the family members of missing and murdered Indigenous women throughout Canada and the US, Sabrina's family just wants to be able to heal and move forward. The Tutsi Reserve's elected band chief, Francis, acknowledged that his community was divided and suffering after Sabrina's murder. During a vigil for Sabrina, Francis said, "It's a close community. Most are related in one way or the other, so this has been hard. Somebody is accused on one side, and then there's the family that lost Sabrina on the other. So friends and family are not talking, or not talking as much as they used to. It's a difficult situation." While Sabrina's family tries to heal, they still don't have closure. Alfred said, "We have no peace to deal with the stuff. Like, we can't move forward with this here not knowing anything. We want to know what happened. In my eyes, something happened and no one is telling us nothing." Sabrina Rosette's murder is still unsolved. If you have any information regarding her murder, please contact the Williams Lake Royal Canadian Mounted Patrol at 250-392-6211. Or you can also contact Crime Stoppers at 1-800-222-8477.
Be sure to follow us on social media at The Murder Diaries Pod. We're everywhere: Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. And until next week,
Stay safe.
Bye.
Ladies, did you know that one of the most common complaints from women about their sexual health is a frustrating low libido? Our sex drive can decline, but it's also treatable. Addyi or flibanserin is FDA approved and has been clinically proven to increase sexual desire in certain premenopausal women who are bothered by a low libido. So if you feel like you've lost your desire and you want to get it back, stop falling for the snake oils and ask your doctor about Addyi today. Or go to addyi.com. That's ADDYI.com. Go to addyi.com and use code TRH for a $10 telemedicine appointment to find out if Addyi is right for you.